Hello, welcome everyone to the show. Dylan's out this week. It is just I and Cicely. Dylan's at AWA. What does that stand for?
Atlanta
Anime Weekend Atlanta?
Anime Weekend in Atlanta.
Anime Weekend in Atlanta, we'll go with that. Survey says yes, they will accept that. They would also accept not Dragon Con. The other thing.
Not Dragon Con in Atlanta.
So we can start off the show in a way I think we've never been able to start off the show before.
What?
We can start off the show with some emails. Emails. Hashtag team emails. We didn't open with an ad, but we do get emails. So two developers, after some discussion after our last podcast on collision detection, reached out. One was, let me get his real name, Patrick DeBrossi, Mute Crimson developer, MTMB Studios. If you want to jump back, go to GameMarx podcast, episode 43. We interviewed him a while back. But we've been chatting every now and then on Steam, in between games and such. And he contacted me, left a message in Steam, paragraph and a half. And basically, when we talked about collision detection, I left out, we didn't mention that when you're doing the player's collision box, it should be smaller than the player's sprite, greatly so, for it to feel correct, right? Because the player's not gonna, if they got one toe on the edge of the spike, they're not gonna think they did anything wrong, right? So you want to make that a really small collision box, which is funny because the game that I've started working on now, I can visually show the collision boxes, and I even pointed that out to you.
Yeah,
that
you
the
did.
box
You
is really
explained it to me. I was like, oh, cool. So you don't have the Mega Man thing of toes of steel.
Well, even Mega Man has a really tight, the original ones, the classic ones. I can't speak for after 3.
I remember hanging off by a toe.
Yes, you could hang on by a toe, but I don't know that you could, you would be dead if you only had one toe over the spike, if they were at the same level.
Oh, no, the spikes were slightly lower.
Well, not in Mega Man 3, though.
Oh,
like, they always did that, and it seemed like in 1 and 2,
they were lower,
yeah,
but
that they got lazy in the level design there. But yeah, that is an excellent point to make sure in your collision box to keep that tight. The other email we got, is from, Michael Brascombe, I'm not sure if I'm saying that. Mike,
Brascombe?
we met him on the ride in DevLink to the, aquarium. Remember we were talking Unity and XNA and the future of it and everything like that. So he's tuned in, fan of the show.
cool.
I think he even mentioned that because he was wearing the Codestock shirt or something. And, he had mentioned that we were talking about, doing pixel-based collision, and that you don't actually want to do it on the image. You want to make a map in memory. And I talked about doing an array of Boolean values, true or false, whether or not it was a colliding pixel or not. So all that data is cached. And he sent an article over that he had come across that mentioned instead of doing an array of Booleans, you do an array of vectors. And each of the XY values in the vector tell you the quickest way to the non-colliding point in the sprite. So, I got an image here in the email he sent, that may or may not come out, but basically, you go in and you figure out where the overlap is between your player sprite and the, tile sprite that they're colliding with. You find out where that pixel is that they collide, and then you get the vector value out of it, from the lowest point, and, in this case, 0 and -4. And that basically tells you to move -4 up the y-axis to get to the point where they're not colliding. I still think that the caveats that we gave against pixel collision, hold true, in that it's not what the player expects. There's a lot of, it sounds good until you implement it, and it's not a performance-based thing. It's just that you realize, oh, okay, this doesn't make a good game. It's pixel perfect collision, but it's not what it is, and doing an approximation of that. But I think you could take this vector method and extrapolate that out to whatever your collision detection ended up being. Speaking of that, I will have a video maybe in the next few days up of the current game that I'm working on to kind of just say, hey, here's the base prototype. It's also going to be for a demo of Xtiled, just to kind of show off the library that we wrote and kind of why we did it and the features, but also just to show what we're working on next, and start building a devlog on that. And then you'll see, I'll talk to collision in that, because a lot of what I wrote in Xtiled was to make platformer collision easier, or any kind of collision easier. So I'll get to that. But yeah, so that was our email segment. I know we've had an email segment before,
but it was usually a joke.
Well, there was a time we read spam, but there was also the time that we shut down the Funkworks podcast and we got an email on the very last episode, after the very last episode, on that. So I think you go back and listen to GameMarx podcast 01. You can hear us there. But, yeah, we're at episode 105.
Yay!
So, podcast@gamemarx.com is the email address. If you want to comment on any topics that we've talked to, or suggest anything, or ask any questions in general, shoot us an email. Alright, so this week, I have pre-recorded, live on tape. You will get to see an interview with Michael Guenther. Michael Guenther is a CPA, and EA is after his name as well. CPA space EA. I don't know what the EA stands for.
I don't either.
Electronic accountant. Like, he's certified public accountant, and he's an electronic accountant. I don't know what that means.
That probably has some specific rules with... Maybe he could deal with the electronic side of HIPAA if he went into the medical field, but it's
I think it's probably something, some other CPA certification or something like that. But more importantly, Michael, I won't say he's specialized in, but he's made a strong amount of his business in doing taxes and accounting for game studios, indie and larger studios, finding them tax breaks. Okay, Soroski in the chat says EA is an enrolled agent.
Ooh, that sounds
important, but that tells me nothing
like a
more.
Bond agent. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, so he's that as well, I guess. So we'll have that interview. I'll play it back here, so you will get to see it live. Just know that you can't ask him questions live, because we pre-recorded that to meet his schedule. Because I get nervous with people who charge more per hour than I do, of like their time. So he's saying it's not that hard of a thing to get, the enrolled agent, but the CPA is a bit harder of a thing to get. Not only that, the Michael, and you'll see this, we'll talk about in the interview, but he's got on his blog just posts, just explaining, how to set up your indie studio, some tax benefits, things, So, I mean, if you're not going through him, at least you could talk to your current accountant and say, hey, what about these things? And how come you never told them to me? And you're fired because I shouldn't have been paying taxes. And the blog post that started it all was his blog post that, you should not pay taxes out of your Kickstarter funds until your game is done. If you do, you did it wrong. And I thought that was awesome. I kind of thought that was the case, but he showed, how you do the accounting and how that works, so that all the cost that goes into making your game happens first, then you ship your game, and then you figure out taxes from what's left over, which is the way it should be. So that'll be coming up, but first, I'm going to run through the news, then we'll do the interview, then we'll hit the Kickstarters. Big news this week. Moe Mercury 3 dropped. It has been released. It is upon us all.
See, this is why they still ping our podcast for this crap.
I did review both of the other ones.
I know.
I did complete both of the other ones.
I remember.
So normally I would not talk too much about what happens in peer review. Kind of a closed door process and all that, but Koei here, Koei, however you say, the developer.
Koei?
He's straight up a dick with the MVPs now. So it's kind of unclear, and he even describes it in this current game. The game system is the same puzzle game as the previous version. Now, there's a very valid, strict rule. You can't just reskin your game and re-release it. That's abusing the new release list. That's abusing the service. So, of course, the MVPs were like, hey, you can't just reskin and re-release this. You know, what's changed? You can't just be music and graphics. What have you changed? Now, I did watch the video. I haven't played the game. But Moe Makuri 1 was tile flipping. Moe Makuri 2 was launching these little balls that ricocheted and did the tile flipping that way. 3 is back to Moe 1's tile flipping mechanic. Okay? It looked like there might be new puzzles. Which I think if you would have just said, they're all new puzzles. Okay, it's a puzzle game. It's a flipping puzzle game. Fine. You know? But it doesn't do that. He taunts and goads the MVPs, and in a way that
It's unnecessary?
It's unnecessary, and it's also like he knows he's very well aware that he's doing it. So he's just responding back to them that he has changed the graphics and the sound, and that, you know, this should be plenty, and in Japanese something fine, or whatever. But the real dickish move is that he will only reply in Japanese. And he has answered in English on the forums, because I followed him for a while.
Yes, I remember. And
He has
so
replied
he's decided they are
capable.
gaijin, and he does not want to deal with them.
Exactly. So, and he chooses to reply only in Japanese. So every post is in Japanese, and when you Google translate it, it's like he's saying, like, yeah, tough, I'm only gonna post in Japanese. And it does seem confrontational, to say the least.
As confrontational as a Japanese person will get.
Trolling, almost, in a weird way. But, you know, it raced through peer review, and I don't think anybody, like, I would have, having played 1 and 2, I think if I had been on the ball a little bit and jumped in there sooner, and Stegs mentioned to me, like, that was going up, it was in playtest or something, or peer review, or been submitted or something, and I didn't jump in it. Having played 1 and 2, I could have quickly fired up 3 and just posted an answer in the forum, say, they're new puzzles. Or not. But, I hope they are new puzzles. They look like they were new puzzles. I hope it wasn't a gaming of the system. With that, there is... Wow. Okay. So that is not my area code that just went off. That's great. So... Whatever, see if they phone back. That's screwed up my entire... Alright, awesome. Yeah, so it passed through too quickly to really do anything. Nobody else is really commenting in the peer review thread. But at this point, it's hard to expect that, given the state of XNA, and, I mean, there's not many people left that are going to care. And I really bring that to set up this bit here, that the prepaid codes that you get with your game, you get 50 codes when you launch your game. Mm-hmm. They've been busted for weeks. And the best that I've seen so far is an email with typos and misspellings all over it that we are going to look into it, sent to some of the developers out. And nobody cares on Microsoft's side. to check it. Oh, hey, it looks like we did. I'm gonna jump back here. There we go. Okay, I'm sorry. I've been flipping to the wrong screen. That's for those in the audio play home. Nothing was wrong for you, but for those on the live video, I've been flipping to the wrong screen because I have to have the interview set up, and I was doing that, and I apologize. So anyway, the prepaid codes. See, now I'm on the right one, and you can hear it. They've been busted for weeks. Nobody's really doing anything, and here's the kick. Here's the real swift kick in the pants. It affected gateways. It affected the indie uprising titles.
Oh dear.
So all this effort goes into planning and rolling these out. These guys schedule their games. They schedule a promo. They go out, and now they don't have their codes to send off to the review sites.
Oh.
And Microsoft doesn't give a shit. Microsoft doesn't put any effort into fixing it. So it's really kind of hard to say, hey, there should have been better people in peer review, when you got to be insane at this level to be sticking with this platform. I mean, you really have to be going in and knowing that it's crap and you're doing it as a hobby and for fun only, which is kind of where we're at, you know. We're not trying to make money off of it.
Because at this point, it's not even a labor of love because they hate you so much.
Yeah. Gateway is shipped on Steam at the same time, fortunately, but not all the other Uprising games did as well, and some of them are affected by this. And, you know, weeks have gone by. You know, there's been some posts, we're going to look into it. It would probably take all of 15 minutes. It's just not a priority.
Yeah.
You know, to look into the code, figure out what went wrong, and fix that, or restart the database server, like the stats, like the payments not going out. It's just, it's neglect. There's not an excuse for it at this point. And, you know, I didn't, queue up, but there was an article that went around earlier in the week how the Windows 8 store has only around 2,000 apps, and that sucker drops retail next month. And they've only got around 2,000 apps in that store. And even, I mean, it's just beyond an insane stretch of the imagination to think in a month they're going to hit 10,000. And it's like 10,000 isn't enough. You know, you need 50, 60,000 in there. Like you don't have the luxury of Android and iOS to build the marketplace over time because you're coming to this so damn late. And I really, really believe that there are a lot of developers in my position. I'm over the shit. I'm not interested in it. You keep shifting technology, you keep shifting roles, you keep hitting reset on things. They have over 100,000 apps. They hit that milestone like back in May. They had 100,000 apps in May for Windows Phone 7. There's no reason that they can't be running XNA and Silverlight still in Windows Phone 8 and keeping that. It is a political bullshit that they're going to reinvent and do this WinRT crap, and that they can't do them side by side either in the store. See, that's the thing. The Windows Phone 8 will run Silverlight and XNA apps. Microsoft is just arbitrarily keeping it from the store. If they were really serious about this shit, the Windows Store would support Windows 7. Because Windows 7 has more legit, purchased, verified, MSDN, whatever, non-pirated copies than iOS, Android, Mac, combined. Okay? There's a fuck ton of Windows 7s out there. You put the Windows Store and you say, yes, we're going to support Windows 8. If you want to run on Windows 8, you need to have the RT thing down, you know, or you're going to have to run in desktop mode. But if they wanted to truly support it, that's what they would do. And then the developers could jump in there and they would, you know, get their stuff listed in there, sell their stuff to the store. Microsoft would make a ton of money over it. But they don't care that way. It's a political bullshit to try to push everybody, force everybody on the Windows 8.
And the people at the top don't play the games. And the people at the top who used to play the games have been pushed to roles where they have no say.
Or they've left. I mean,
yeah.
Ray Ozzy's left the company. All the visionaries of Zune and Xbox and really, Zune is important because Zune was the genesis of the Metro design language. Like, that's where that thing started. And you know, it is not their tech. It is not the tech. I think the Metro interface on a mobile device is better than iOS. I think it's a great metaphor. Live tiles, I don't think get used as much as they could be, but I think that's also a great mobile innovation. Obviously the Xbox has been great if they would just defuck it from the ads. You know, I mean, I think compared to, you know, the PlayStation 3 interface, the Xbox dashboard is still much better. I mean, all the PlayStation 3 shit is all tiny and, you know, it's like
unreadable.
Not utilizing my screen or thinking about the controls.
I wish they had a proper just shut off button. I'm like, I don't want to press this button for 5 minutes just to make the damn thing shut off.
Which one? The Xbox? Or
no, the PS3. It's ludicrous.
Not a problem.
Yeah, you don't, but
I
do.
Push the same little thing like you push on Xbox, and it says you want to shut down. You say the console. Thank you.
Yeah, but when I don't have the TV on because the child has turned on the PS3, and I just want to turn the PS3 off.
I think I think you have issues.
I have issues, but I want an off button.
So anyway, that's been going on for a while. And it's going to get worse for Microsoft going forward. Xbox Magazine had an article, and this got around quite a bit because it was confirmed. I believe that AT&T, Verizon, Time Warner, probably Comcast, although they weren't mentioning. No, Cox Communication, Comcast are mentioned as well. That they are looking into game services, cloud game services. Now, this is kind of your on-live system, I think. This is your play the game over the cloud. I don't know that tech is there, but maybe through... This is kind of what people have rumored the Xbox to do, which is it replaces your Comcast DVR box, and then you watch the cable through the Xbox, but then you can also play games on it. But it looks like the cable companies might be going, well, that's great. Why don't we just sell the games too? Because we already sell the movies and all that. Why should we give you any cut of that? It's a big case of history repeating itself because this is why the Xbox kind of exists. Because Sony was talking about home entertainment with the PlayStation, and Microsoft was trying to partner with them, and Sony was like, why the fuck would we partner with you and your little web TV shit? And Microsoft didn't want to get cut out of the living room, so that's kind of repeating itself. I don't know what that's going to mean much for indies yet, but it could. If all of them start doing it, it could get very competitive.
You know what?
But the hardware is not going to be great.
The hardware is not going to be great unless they talk to Steam.
Well, we got a bit of Steam news on that coming up later. Let's see. Got some more Xbox stuff to fill in here.
Ooh, fun.
Xbox Live adds gamer score rewards.
What?
So now you will get, if you're signed up for that Xbox rewards program,
which I have,
and I don't get shit from.
I have gotten 100 points last month.
That is bullshit.
I know it is. It
100
is
points.
Because that you need 100 points.
$1. You know, it's $1.
It's $1. And if I was your children, I'd have already spent it on an outfit.
You'll spend it on outfit.
I wanted to spend it on a game, but I don't have enough for the game. So, yeah.
What game? All your games you should be buying should come from the Indie Channel, and they're 80 points.
I wanted Minecraft.
Fuck. But I'm not even going there. So anyway, if you got 3,000 to 10,000 points, you got 3,000 points yet? You get a special gift on your birthday, which is probably gonna be a fucking T-shirt, right? It's gonna be an Avatar T-shirt or some
Avatar
dumb
T-shirt
shit like
with
that.
a birthday cake. Ooh, maybe my Avatar will hold a birthday cake.
If you have 10,000 to 25,000, which I think is where I fall in, I think I'm around like 17. I don't know. I haven't looked in a while. I get a special gift on my birthday, and 1% points back on anything I buy every month. 1%.
That's worse than the,
So
Sears.
when I buy an indie game,
you get a penny maybe.
a 0.8 points. I won't even get a fucking point because they'll probably round that shit down. 1 point, That's, God, that is so. And if you're over 25,000 gamer points, you get to up that rate to 2%. This, I would have loved to be in the boardroom for this promotion, because this just has the whole, like, there was nobody in the company willing to bother to stand up and go, this is stupid. Nobody's going to give a shit about this at all. Like, you're giving away a point, and anybody that buys enough to make that worthwhile, you should be giving them stuff anyway. They're your good customers, but, yeah. What did you find out?
I went to go to sign into my Microsoft account. Something went wrong and we can't get to the sign-in page right now. Please try again later.
I think it's because you're on your iPad.
Possibly. I'm being a traitor.
No, seriously, I've been on several Microsoft sites and they don't work in iOS or mobile browsers well.
Anything that can handle ESPN should fucking be able to handle everything else. I'm sorry, Microsoft. Fuck off.
Here's some gossip, because we got to cover some gossip.
Ooh.
Ensemble Studios basically said, like, Bungie did not like them working on Halo Wars. And he's got... I love the quotes from Tom Gordon. And he said... one of which was that didn't start out as a Halo game. So originally it was not a Halo game. And Microsoft said they were risk adverse. And I don't know, we want to take the risk of creating a strategy game on the console. We'd feel better if Halo were attached to it. At which point, Ensemble was like, but it's not a Halo game. And that's not going to work. And they just said, well, why don't you just paint over what you have with Halo stuff? Make them little Master Chiefs, and that way it'll be Halo. So they were kind of coerced into it. They didn't want to do it. And Bungie didn't like the idea. And, quote Goodman, Bungie was kind of sore about that idea. What they called it was the whoring out of our franchise or something. Yeah, that didn't create a good relationship between us and Bungie. He said, props to Bungie for never publicly revealing any of this. They went out, they praised the game in interviews and all of that, and put on a unified front. I thought it was just kind of an interesting look inside of, publisher politics, where you literally have some publisher going, yeah, take this other IP and put that in your game so that it's Halo and will sell more because it says Halo on the box. And both studios are saying that's dumb.
Yeah. I found out my point score from where I should have gone the first place. TrueAchievements.com.
So what is your... Well, that's not your true achievement score, but your actual score.
The actual score is 11,601.
You have 11,000 points?
Apparently so. I've achievement hoard that much.
Achievement whore. Because I've had my gold account at least 2 years more than you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm up to like 17.
Yes. Achievement whore.
More drama. We should have mentioned this during the Windows 8 stuff. But, not said, no, fuck you, Microsoft, I'm not going to put it on Windows 8. And, he basically said all of this on Twitter. This is one of these great, lazy game journalism articles, where somebody tweets something, and then somebody goes and writes more words about the tweet for an article than were actually said in the tweets.
Or even subsequent tweets at that.
Yeah, he had a few tweets. He basically said he was contacted to submit Minecraft for Windows 8 certification, because like I said, they were going panicked ape shit because they don't have a whole lot of apps on there. And he was like, no, fuck you guys, don't fuck up the PC, and doesn't like it. again, the problem I have with this is that Notch released Minecraft for Xbox, which has, it's already there. It's not the fear of what Windows 8 Store might become. It already is that fear of dominant controlling, and all that, and you released that there. So, I don't agree with the people who were like calling him a hypocrite because he was on iOS. And I think it's not an easy thing to explain to the general public, but iOS is more developer friendly than Microsoft because iOS is not restricting their APIs to partners. They're not dictating you can't connect to the internet and you must use, this system and you can't have this system that this other guy can have. And they also don't segregate the games, which is the most important thing. That Xbox Live flag creates two class of games on their platforms, the ones that are worth something and the ones that aren't in the minds of consumers. So, especially if they're pushing rewards now behind Gamerscore. And Apple and Google don't do any of that shit. And Microsoft continues to do that. So, I don't think he's a hypocrite for being on iOS, but he is a hypocrite because he's already on the Xbox. And I would kind of love him to come out and just rationalize that or something away. Like, why are you fine then being on the Xbox?
I'm not certain he is fine being on the Xbox.
It may just be, look, it happened, the deal was done very early, we were young, I was innocent, I got taken advantage of,
and I found out how much of an asshole they were after we got married and I didn't have a prenup.
I wonder if he's being charged 40 grand a patch.
Probably.
Because that
maybe
seems
more
to be their going rate, and but they are doing Minecraft updates. I accidentally read a Minecraft update for the Xbox, because the Xbox is like at version 1.8.
1.7 was when they started.
And the real Minecraft is like 1.3 or something. And I was like, holy shit, 1.8. Like, mine's 1.32. I'm way behind. I started reading it, and it was like, we've added new food stuff, like bread and cake. And I'm like, that's there. What? And then I realized, oh, I'm reading the Xbox. You guys are getting everything way behind. So I said I had some Steam news, and Valve stuff. Congratulations, community. We launched this Greenlight thing. A bunch of people jumped in and voted, and now you have McPixel on Steam. So apparently what the community wanted on Steam was more Flash games.
More crap.
I'm not going to say that McPixel is crap. McPixel is not crap.
True.
But McPixel is a Flash game. And it's like, that's what we needed on Steam? That was what you were missing? That's
what drives down the curve. This is why we can't have nice things. This is why we can't have nice things.
You're just going to encourage more Flash games to dominate and submit and drown out.
This is why things cost $100 now, and this is why we can't have nice things. Thank you, Internet.
They are getting ready to, Valve is getting ready to begin Linux Steam beta next week. Again, all signs point to Steam console coming.
Steambox!
And, the whole idea of the Linux console, because it's like, it's Linux on the console is to make a console box. I don't know that Linux gaming is going to be a giant thing, but it'll be interesting to see what the publisher support outside of Valve is behind Linux once Steam is there. And that'll almost be like willing to hedge our bets if there's a console. Because if there's a console and it runs Linux, then you're going to have to support Linux. You're going to have a platform that supports Linux. To be on the console, and it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to watch if any other publishers jump on, or what developers jump on and release Linux versions of their games. Now that said, there's probably going to be a lot of them in the catalog, because a lot of the Humble Bundle titles are always available on Steam, and they always come with Linux editions. So there's going to be a lot of indie gaming. Could be a boost for indie gaming. it'll be curious to see what happens, because in the Humble Bundle, the Linux crowd is always the highest dollar average donor, whereas the Windows guys donate like $5 and the Mac guys donate like $6 on average for the Humble Bundle. The Linux guys will average around $9 to $10, you know, because they're really just making a statement, you know, that there's money to be had on Linux.
Even if I think even if the pro game studios set out Linux versions, they would still. There's a kind of crowd to be so hoity-toity that they would not pay for the major studios. They would go and get the indie bundles every time.
Last news item is really kind of a Kickstarter item, but I'm going to cover it now. GameMarx has gone live. So, new crowdfunding platform, GameMarx. This promises to be video game specific. So unlike Kickstarter, they take everything. They're just video games. Now, I didn't get into a lot of, like, are they going to make it easier for digital distribution and managing beta builds and forums and everything that need to go with a video game Kickstarter usually creeps up. But they are allowing you to invest, to actually put in money for a percentage of the return of how well the game does, in place of, or in addition to, backing and getting a copy of the game. Now that's available only to the European Union. They won't push to the States until 2013, when the Jobs Act passes into legislation, and one of the things that the Jobs Act will enable is this micro-entrepreneurial thing. Currently, you can't do this. It's not legal in the United States. You have to go through brokers and things like that to invest in a company. Used to be able to invest individually like this, and a whole bunch of scammers ruined it for everybody. We'll see if scammers don't come back with that. But with the crowdfunding platform, it should be interesting. Now, I went to their site, and their site design is ass. They've had some artists get in there and shit it all up with fancy-ass fonts and...
Are there lens flares?
And there's no lens flares. It's not like that. But, I mean, it's like a web designer get in there and go crazy and play with all this stuff that it makes it hard to read. Like, everything on the site is kind of hard to read and parse, and I'm looking around hunting for information on the game, and hopefully their design iteration will evolve. It's curious to see where this goes. There's a few games on there right now. And the other thing that they allow, too, is they allow hybrid approaches to where a publisher can back a game for a portion. So, you know, somebody says, like, hey, I'm going to publish that. And that publisher says, okay, I'm going to give, you know, $110,000 to this project if it hits its $200,000 total goal. So the publisher is basically putting a 52% stake in the project, and then allowing the rest to be crowdfunded. So
enough to have controlling interest, not enough to...
Yeah, enough to where the developer can still maintain a lot of rights because they didn't fund the entire thing. And, you know, because it's done very publicly, the publisher is really going to have to back down on typical publisher type things.
We own your intellectual property.
Well, the publisher can't swoop in and say, do this instead of that, because it'll be very public that they make that change, and there'll be the gamers outcrying. So, it could be interesting because it keeps the publishers involved, though. So it's like, publishers, here's a new role that you can get behind. Should be interesting. And yeah, Jim pointed out in chat, 3D Realms is there. But it's going to have to be, right now, the European Union for investment. I think the U.S. can still back and get a pre-order copy of the game, but it's going to be investment otherwise. So, okay, alright. Now, we're going to cut over here and run through the interview with myself and Michael Guenther. So, let's see if this works. Oh, God. Oh, God, that was bad. It's still going. It's still going. All right. The internet ate itself. We're having a moment of technical difficulty. I forgot to change this setting over here. All right. Here we go. For reals. All right. Welcome, Michael Guenther, to the show.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on. So I just want to set up real quick how I came across you, because I think it was kind of interesting. I was on Wired. I'm a big Kickstarter guy, and I do a lot of Kickstarter tracking. And they had this Wired article on 5 Kickstarter projects slammed with success. And as I was going down, most of them were stuff that we've talked about in the podcast before, not having enough, planned out for what it's going to actually cost to print T-shirts or account for shipping or anything like that. But one came up, and it just struck me as that can't be right. And there was a quote from a guy who did a 3D printer. He raised $800,000 and then talked about being smacked with a $300,000 IRS bill. And I was like, that can't be right. That's an insane tax rate. I mean, even if the guy just wrote down that as income, it seemed like you should have talked to someone, or he didn't talk to anything. Now, in that guy's defense, because I tried to find more details on his story, it may be a Wired misquote. That's what that article may be. Maybe he said, yeah, the year flipped over, because he was at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And the year flipped over, and then somebody said, oh, you owe the government this much. And he's like, what? And then they got it sorted out, and then, it was fine, because he's shipping his printers, and he's met his goal and all that. But I came across your blog, Guenther and Associates, and no Kickstarter should pay income their first year. And then I just found all over your blog, like, you have a ton of articles on video gaming and taxes. So how did that happen? How did you, were you like 10 years old and you're like, man, I want to be an accountant for the Mario Brothers guys?
Yeah, really. No. Well, I got, I started my own practice about 5 years ago. And, I was doing a lot of just the basic, CPA stuff that you would pretty much see any CPA doing. I started to realize how boring that was. And, one of my passions that I have is tech stuff and video gaming. And so what I do is I kind of morphed my practice into, serving those communities. And it's been hugely beneficial for me because I'm very passionate about my clients and, and about how involved I get, with their day in and day out activities. And, overall, the reward that I get at the end of every day is so much greater because I actually work with these companies that I worship,
So, well, that's really great to hear because, this stuff for, like, most indie developers we talk to, it'll be a recurring theme of the show, are not even thinking about marketing. They're so heads down and writing the code to their game, they're not thinking about marketing or promoting themselves. And then usually, many times, many stories, what happens is success kind of finds them after a while. They're doing their thing, they're passionate about it, and then one day, a few blogs pick it up, it goes viral or something, and then all of a sudden they realize, like, wow, wait a minute, at some point I became a thing, I became a studio, I became more than a guy who's loading up from Flash games on the web. It's like something crazy like you get crazy examples like Notch, but I think there are a lot more, let's say, $30,000 to $50,000 developers with the iOS markets who are getting into that.
Oh yeah, I've got a few clients that are making well over $100,000 a year just in iOS, and so it's huge. And these people they have no idea what to do with their money. They're calling me up in a panic, wondering how much money they're going to have to pay in taxes, sort of deal.
So, well, let's hit on that. You have a good article. I flagged just a few of them to help me remind myself what to talk about. you have a good article on just getting started. I'm an indie. I'll have these links in show notes, and I'm an indie game developer. How should I handle the financials? And I want to say you put me at ease on the very first point, because your very first point was don't sweat your structure, right? And I kind of always assumed for our company, Funkworks, that I've screwed it up. And at some point, some CPA is going to look at it and be like, oh, what the hell have you done? It's just going to take, all this time. Because I looked around, read enough online to do the absolute simplest thing I could do to just check that box off, be legit, but, not have to worry about anything. So I set up a pass-through LLC in my state of Tennessee. It probably wasn't the best way to do that anywhere, but I wanted to do one main thing, and that was communicate to the two partners that I have, one of which has now become my wife. We were dating at the time, but she's our graphic designer and our artist. And the other is a really great personal friend I have. He's another developer. He codes better than I do, and I'm shit hot, and he's insane. And, I said, we're going to have to figure something out, and we're going to have to figure something out and just do something awesome. And so I set up the pass-through LLC because everything just passes through and we file it as income tax. I'm like, I understand income tax. I can do that one. And I could tell them, you get a third, I get a third, he gets a third. Everybody has a third. So we know from the beginning, nobody has 100%, nobody owns it. If we ever have a great day, we're splitting it even. We're all equal partners. And I love that was your first point, was don't sweat the entity. Don't even worry about LLC or Corp or anything. Just get an agreement in place.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I stole all your thunder and talked about...
No, that was perfect. You summed it up very well.
All right. So number 2, and I'll let you hit on this one. Keeping track of your expenses. What kinds of expenses do you need to be on the lookout for that you think you come across the indie developers are not thinking about?
Yeah. Well, the majority of the time when an indie developer starts making a game, they're obviously making no money at all. And the last thing they're thinking about is, their future amount they're going to have to pay in taxes. Just keeping an eye on, what your expenses are during that time period is a good, a simple way to potentially heavily reduce taxes in the future. And that's just something as simple as, having bank statements, making sure to print out your bank statements and keep those, or keep PDF copies of them available. Maybe opening, a separate credit card just for your business and using that credit card. Because what happens is even if you don't make income that year, you can always carry over those expenses from one year to the next, depending on how much income you're making during that year. And so for a lot of people that aren't even showing any income at all on their tax returns, they're able to carry forward those expenses to the next year and the year after and the year after that, and be able to apply those expenses, all that time and energy and work that they put into building that game, they'd be allowed to apply those expenses when they actually start making income on that game.
Now, when I don't think it was in this article, but it was another one that you had up there. You mentioned something about tracking your time, and that your time spent building the game can be a deduction or an expense or a cost or some benefit.
Yeah, that gets a little bit technical, and really, when that happens, I would say, if you have actually incorporated and you're, and you have a partner, you have an agreement with, multiple people that are working on your game, and potentially you're paying yourself for previous games, I would say that's when that would come into effect. I think that would be important to keep an eye on. But the main point of that is just to recognize that your game is an asset. And, all the expenses that go into it can potentially make your company look really good. And so you can essentially make your game look like it's worth, $100,000. And, if you're seeking outside investments from publishers in the future, they'll see that asset there and they'll know, oh, hey, wow, this company's doing really well.
Yeah, this was on. I'm going to jump ahead a bit, but you mentioned, software and video game as an asset. You also mentioned the intellectual property in there can be an asset as well. So I guess the important thing, maybe you can use it, maybe you can't, but if you didn't record the information, your accountant can't do anything. Right? So at least if I walk in and I say, I've logged on my time, and you say, yeah, that's great, Mike, it's you in a garage, and there's not much we can do with this, but when you get bigger, when it's several people, if you want to start paying yourselves and all of that, this will come in handy. So that's something I didn't think about doing. We've never really tracked how much time we spent developing. We track any actual expenses. I know we don't carry anything forward. I've just let it pass through as a loss, and done that, and then I take the little off, and we haven't been audited yet, but we've lost like $2,000 to $3,000 a year for the last couple of years, so I don't even think anyone cares at that point to jump in. So
yeah, I would say, I mean, even then, just the fact that you're recording that you're saying that you have a $2,000 loss every year, depending on what goes on with your other income, you could potentially use that in the future when you start making money from your game.
Yeah, we have no income. There's none of that. It makes it all easy.
Yeah, see, that's very typical, and I see that with a lot of indie developers.
There's been a few opportunities where we had an opportunity for $600 worth of income, and we have said, please don't give us that money. We would like you to donate that money to this charity in our name, and then we'll do the work for you. But I don't want to, like, as soon as we have profit, I'm afraid it gets really complicated. So I've been like, just that's not worth it for $600. We'll wait till we have 10,000. Then we'll deal something. But
there you go.
So I mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, and it's one of your points on here. If you have partners, to get a partnership agreement and whatever that means. But I think your main thrust here is to get an agreement in writing. Who has what share in the company, right?
Correct. Yeah, I come across a lot of issues with game developers that are involved in an indie project, and they come and go. One of them may get a job and take off from the middle of this project, and still think that they own part of that project. And so, just outlining that in the beginning, I think is important, just to be able to say, listen, if one of us, gets a job and leaves, then they lose interest in this indie game project or whatever, or you still maintain this much interest or whatever.
Right. So yeah, have that conversation, I guess, before there's money involved.
And it could just be verbal. It doesn't necessarily have to be written, but just to have that done.
So your last point is, of course, once you get cash, to get a professional, and that's something that's what I'm hoping for. How would you say, if we can't hire you, what do I need to go in there and just start asking and start hearing from a CPA to go, okay, these are a good fit. This guy at least understands. She gets what we're doing here. Or what if I hear that, go, okay, I think I'm just another notch in the peg of the number of forms filled out in a month.
Exactly, and that's just up to you. I would say if you have the opportunity, meet with as many CPAs as you can. Find the one that you bond with the best, the one that you feel is on the same level as you are, and most likely that person will be the best choice for a CPA. So it's all about just going with your gut feeling, and usually if they're good with you, they're going to be a good CPA.
All right, and if they have a gaming headset, that's a good plus, right?
Yeah.
So specifically, you had a article on your 3 favorite tax incentives. Now, these may or may not be something that indies can take advantage of, but I thought these were interesting because these are things I didn't even consider. This is where having a professional, makes sense, makes everybody money. Not only pays for the professional, but everybody walks away happier. So R&D credits, and that you could basically have research and development credits for a game company. And that's not something I would have thought. That I would have never thought that. To me, R&D is like crazy mad scientists in a lab. We may have a game that has crazy mad scientists in a lab, but I wouldn't think of us as qualifying for that.
Yeah, you would qualify, any video game developer would qualify for R&D credits. Only specific expenses qualify, but pretty much any game developer could get it.
So what is a DPA deduction?
It's a domestic production activities, and that is something that was put into place a few years ago to allow for production within the United States.
So this is basically like a Detroit automakers help, right? Is where this started?
Yeah, and that's basically where it came from. Is it was a tax break for a lot of these companies, a lot of these manufacturing companies that would produce items here in the United States. And what happened was the big game developer EA stuck their nose in the business and ended up getting the U.S. government to expand that to intangible property like software and video games.
So I think that's a crazy awesome thing that I think we have to be grateful to EA for. So if you're writing
one of the few things,
yeah, more than Activision. Is that so? This is an awesome thing that if you're in here, you could potentially, I think, would you say 9% of income earned from production activities that have occurred in the U.S. So if I'm reading that right, is that 9% of my sales if my team is all U.S. based?
Exactly.
Sorry for all of our Canadian and loyal European listeners, David and Mad and James. You'll just have to continue to enjoy your awesome healthcare and not get our awesome tax deductions. Maybe. I'll bring that back up in a second. Enterprise zone credits. You may be in a state that you can get some, I guess these are just small company type credits?
Yeah, they're state tax credits. It's for people that have to pay state income tax. California is a big one. There's a lot of income tax in California. New York is another, Florida. And so they set up these tax credits in certain areas to help boost the economy in those areas. So it doesn't apply to a lot of people, but there's a good possibility that somebody may qualify for that.
All right, and so that's another reason to have a good CPA, and especially one who has some familiarity with your state that you may qualify in.
Yes.
All right. Now I'm going to loop back around because the Kickstarter one was the one that that brought me here and actually made me think of like, how do I need to consider what we're doing, and even with the losses that we're carrying forward, like maybe go out and seek something. So the first thing you mentioned in the Kickstarter article was accrual accounting. Now this is something that I've seen and I don't have my head completely wrapped around, and I've seen the other option of when you get the cash, claim it. And I'm like, that's easy. The date that went in the bank account's the date I write here, and that went out. So what is the accrual accounting?
Accrual accounting is exactly what you were talking about earlier, and that is when somebody runs the Kickstarter and doesn't actually ship the products or ship the rewards right away. The Amazon Payments, who is the payment processor for Kickstarter, will send out a form and will mail that form to the IRS as well, saying what income you earned from Kickstarter. And very well, if you're a cash accounting business and you don't have a good CPA telling you what to do, you would have to pay tax on whatever Kickstarter income you earn well before you have a chance to even fulfill your rewards or use your expenses towards your business. So accrual accounting is basically postponing that until that income is actually earned. And what that means is that until your product or rewards are actually shipped and received by your backers.
So until, if in the case of a video game, until I ship the game, make the game available to the backers, we haven't figured out what the tax percentage, the tax liability is yet on that. So if we go in and we had a well overfunded Kickstarter, and then I said, oh wow, look at this, we've doubled our sales. I want to bring in a professional musician, and we're flush with funds, so we can go out and get a really good guy, and we bring him in. That becomes a cost, right? Now, and that I'll be able to, in the accrual account method, account for. Whereas if I was cash-based, what you're saying is, as soon as I got that money, the taxes are going to be paid out of it, and then I'll probably lose that. Am I kind of there?
Exactly. Yeah, you nailed it. A cash accounting, whatever income you earn, whatever is sent your way, you have to say that this is income. Under accrual accounting, you can wait until you start making those expenses. Essentially, if your project is over 2 years or 3 years, you can wait on claiming that income until those 3 years are up, and you're allowed to do that. You're allowed per IRS, and all 50 states allow that. So you're able to postpone that until you actually ship your product to your backers.
So I mean that is excellent, because on the other ones that were failing, or were struggling with success, you run into situations where you found somebody, they're going to print your T-shirts, they're going to print it for this much, you did all the costs, and then you have a successful Kickstarter that goes way above and beyond, and you walk in and you say, hey, I'm not ordering 300 shirts, I'm ordering 30,000 shirts. And the T-shirt printing shop has said to some people, and they come back and they go, we don't do that. So good luck, find someone else. We're not that big of a shop, and we're not going to take that large of an order. We're kind of a smaller scale shop. This has happened. This happened to the Pebble, the iOS watch. They asked for like $1 million or close to $1 million in funding to get that off the ground, and they got $11 million. And then the manufacturers begin saying, yeah, we're not ramped up for your level of production. You should go find someone else. We thank you for coming to us and, talking to us. And that gives a little bit more breathing room. That gives them a little bit more like, you could come out of your Kickstarter and even technically still have a loss. You can commit more personal funds or something like that so that you do ship, you do right by your backers, but technically you still lost money on your Kickstarter, which I don't think is a bad thing. I mean, I think Kickstarter gives you a great opportunity, and if you had to throw in a couple more bucks, now you have 30,000 gamers, and you'll get sales beyond that. So,
yeah.
That was a real eye-opening one when I was going through your site. I will have links up to your blog and these specific posts, but I do encourage everybody to go in there and just start reading through some of these things. Now, I had some questions. I don't know if they were specific on video game posts, but I was reading some of your other stuff about a company or a developer outside of the U.S. and what they might be able to do to take advantage of U.S. taxes. Now you specifically, I think this was on a Kickstarter post. You're outside the U.S., you want to do a Kickstarter. This might have been before they opened it up. I think they're opening it up to London or Britain or England or something now. But my case is a little slightly different, and that is Microsoft. So a lot of the developers who follow this podcast are Xbox Live indie game developers and Windows Phone developers. Microsoft, unlike Apple and Google, does not have local country payment centers set up. So whereas Apple will just pay you in your local currency in your local country through their local branch, Microsoft pays everybody from the U.S. And the forums are just filled of nightmares of trying to get ETIN forms or something filled out and get all that squared away and done. for these guys, is there something that they can do to kind of help them? Because they constantly have horror stories of, wow, I'm going to pay taxes in the U.S. and then get to pay taxes in Great Britain.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I actually help a lot of foreign Kickstarters with this exact same issue. The best way to do this is to actually, in fact, I'll make a post about this because you bring up a really good point, and I actually didn't know that was an issue. But what I think the best way to do is to start an entity here in the United States. Delaware is a very simple place to go to get an entity set up. It could be, as simple as just a C corporation. You have an EIN number for that C corporation, and then you have owners of that C corporation. You don't have to be local to own that C corporation. You can live anywhere in the world to own that C corporation, and all of a sudden you'll have that EIN number that Microsoft is requiring. And then, depending on your location, I would say, the majority of people, especially live in, Canada or Europe, who have a lot of the same banking institutions that we do, can actually set up a bank account under that corporation in their local country. I'd recommend using a bank that's here in the United States as well. I can imagine that, as soon as you have that corporation, that EIN number, they could deposit that money directly into your bank account in, the other country there. Now, the tax issue, that's a different question altogether because, technically you are liable for those taxes in the United States. But as long as you use that corporation in your foreign country as well, you don't get taxed twice because of this. So you would just pay one set of taxes, essentially.
Okay. So if you get it set up right, then you should be okay with some of that. And maybe for some of these guys, it might not work out to their favor. They have these great healthcare systems. I think they pay a little bit more in taxes than we do, but they could take advantage of the great, wonderful, low tax rates of the United States. Not much for your dollar there, but that's a different topic. I don't want to keep you too long. Anything you want to come up or anything that I brought up you want to go back and correct me on?
No, I mean, I've definitely enjoyed being on this podcast, and if you ever wanted me to come on again for any reason, I'd be more than happy to do that. If any of your people have questions, any of your listeners have questions, I'd be more than happy to be involved. If they wanted to send me an email, I'd be more than happy to answer it. Just as long as I don't get 100 emails at once, or 200 emails at once, I think I'll be all right.
That would be every listener we have.
I'm sorry, what?
That would be every listener we have. So
okay. Well, let's hope not every listener does not email me at once. But yeah, I'd be more than happy to answer questions. And I think I'll look into this Xbox Live issue, and I'll probably make a post on that on my site pretty soon, if I can find some time to do it.
Well, if you do, that is excellent. You provide a lot of information on your site, and very, very focused and useful. And there's almost because anytime you talk about this, everything has a caveat. Everything goes, this is general, but you're going to have to get a CPA. You're going to have to get a lawyer for your specific case. And many times it seems to almost shut down the conversations. It's like, well, oh, yeah. I can't really tell you anything because I don't know about your specific case. And then it's like, yeah, but I just need to know of the right things to ask. And it was refreshing, especially the Kickstarter posts and the how to set up and, just get basics. And you said in one of the posts too, like, you don't really have to sweat a lot of this until you start having the money come in. As long as you have a partnership agreement in place, you're probably going to be pretty good for any CPA once the money comes in and it comes time to go up to that next level.
Exactly.
So, if I've got you for, let's say, 2 or 3 more minutes, I know you were running somewhere, but what are you playing? What are the games that you're into?
Oh man, I'm actually I just got Borderlands 2, and I'm really excited to play that because I really like Borderlands 1. Geez, what else did I just get? FTL. just released their game, and I haven't even had a chance to open that game up, and I'm actually really excited to play that game. So
My wife the other night said, "I think I want to buy FTL on Steam," and like she plays a lot of Farmville, and a lot of Minecraft. There's a couple games we'll overlap on, like Assassin's Creed or something like that, but generally not. And I just looked at her and I said, we watched a gameplay demo of that, a quick look on Giant Bomb, and you've seen this game. You know what it is. Why do you want this game? And she's just like, I just keep hearing everybody talk about it and they love it. So I think that's going to be on our list as well. Even though, I mean, it's an indie darling, because I mean, it's that beautiful, like, drop dead simple mechanics and graphics, and it's all about the gameplay. And you look at that and you go, that's well within our reach. We could develop that. We could design and develop that. That is not, you don't need $1 million teams on there. And those guys are doing great. And it's really exciting time to be an indie with all those things going on.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Well, all right, Michael. Are you taking new clients, by the way?
I definitely am, yeah.
All right, because there's a couple. I know we got a couple. We've had guests in the past. We got a couple listeners too that they may be able to use your services. They're doing quite well and successful.
Definitely, yeah. Well, I'm more than happy to give quotes up front for fees and everything. So I have no problem with that.
I think you even have a post on that on your site.
Yeah, I like to be up front. I don't like to play the games that a traditional CPA plays. I like to be up front and let everyone know what's going on, so they don't get stuck with a large bill and wonder where it came from, sort of deal.
Well, it sounds like if you got money rolling in, Michael's going to be able to save you more than he's going to charge. So
that's the goal.
Thank you again, Michael, for coming on, and we'll make sure we have links to notes and everything on Michael's blog in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, we're back live. I hope that for the most part worked. You guys have no fucking idea how much hell I went through.
There were tweets and tweets of anger and angst and rage.
Let's just say Wirecast is a piece of shit. Wirecast is an ever-loving piece of shit for professional software and what they charge. The amount of nightmare crap that I get on trying to recover and save stuff. I mean, thankfully, I do not use them for the master audio. And I use Reaper and have never lost audio with Reaper. Props to those guys. Before we jump into the Kickstarter, just recapping, I did email Mike and follow up with him on links to the ETIN issue. He basically, I think he's going to do a post on that with some guidance, but he looked at that and it was like, yeah, ETIN W8, that's an amazing pain in the ass. So, which is good, I guess. I mean, we haven't had to go through it because we're not for them, but from everybody I've seen that has, maybe it's reassuring to know that it wasn't just you, that's a bad way for Microsoft to do it. Another reason why I think they need to get their shit together if they want to be serious about this. Alright, let's see. Jumping in here for, let's see if the web thing is working. Wait. No, hold on. Gotta set that button back, or we'll hurt somebody again.
Don't enter the Matrix. Don't take the blue pill.
Alright, yeah, we're working. So the first one back up, Kickstarters this week is back from being, taken down. I'm guessing a DMCA takedown notice or something. Square hit, OC Remix, in their efforts to, make a actual CD from, some of their remix stuff. And it looks like now they are back and that, they're actually working with Square, and they mention in their FAQ, I think it is, that yes, we are paying licensing and royalties. So they worked out a royalties agreement, with Square. I'm glad that, all parties worked that out. I also think that's the way it should work. That's the way they should have done it to begin with. That, you know, I know they're remixing, but they're obviously trading in on the Final Fantasy name. And that, you know, the original and the copyright holders should have a say in that. So, I'm glad it all worked out, for the better. And they're already over. They're already double their goal. They look for 30,000 or up to 70,000. So, and I'm a fan of OC Remix. I mean, I've downloaded quite a bit of their stuff and played it. First game this week is the Ending Halloween Night. This, I think I put this one in here as it's got really good voiceover, and you kind of go through this entire game. Good graphics, a good presentation, but at no point do I have a sense of the game. And I think because they talk about their Anarchy Enterprises and they've made several other games, and normally they would go to a publisher, and they talk about in the video how at this point in the game's development cycle, we have a demo, and we've got this up, and we would now shop this around to publishers to get it picked up. And, you know, this seems like the kind of video that maybe you would show a publisher, right? Because it's not selling you on the game, it's really just showing you, like, look, we've got this point-and-click mechanic thing. We've got this point-and-click. Here's an example of dialogue. Here's an example of moving things around and stuff like that. They're talking about the story, but not really showing it very well. And, you know, this may end up reaching its goal. I don't know. It's launched to a lukewarm start, but it might get a boost later. But I think instead of doing this really polished, random scene moment type thing that might work for a publisher, I think this is the case that gamers need to see the game. And they should have just done more of a gameplay footage, you know, of just like, here it is, playing the game, and then tell us a little about them. You know, and why this matters. Why are they passionate? Why do they care about this particular story? What are they getting to do they couldn't do otherwise? So it's an interesting cautionary tale because it's not coming from, like, they didn't bother getting a video or their production values are low or anything like that. It's actually very high across the board. It just doesn't ring true because I don't know what the game actually is like. After all that up. So, a theme this week, we're going to hit a couple games here. These aren't amazing looking games. These might not be very big, among gamers and things like that. This one here looks like, I don't know if it's RPG Maker or not, but it could be, a fairly simple RPG running around. And, it does. The thing is, the guy's asking for $100.
Oh.
And he wants to get the license to the software. Okay. That's all he needs. The $100 to make the game. And he hit his $100, and he added a stretch goal because he wants to bring in a friend to collaborate on the project, and I need $250 to get him his software. Or he needs a $250 goal so he can get a license for his buddy as well.
Cool.
So it's good to see. It's good to see, like, all levels using
That's
Kickstarter.
Nice.
This one is kinda on the list. It's an interesting idea. I don't know why you need $100,000 for this. It doesn't feel like you've justified that. But this is Google Earth Data. The name of the game is called Geoception. And,
okay, because it looked like an Inception pull-out right there. And I've not seen Inception, but I've seen enough commercials from Inception.
It's just Google Maps. And then you're playing the game on the Google Map.
Yeah, but Inception
I'm waiting
has all
for the
those
first,
whooshes.
if this guy, I think what can make this guy successful is if he can get a media backlash on the terrorist planners game. You know, because it's real locations, real locales, you know, you got troops running around. Now he's doing like crazy, you know, big military stuff in the beginning, but later he's like messing with police cars and just everyday things, you know. So that's the kind of like overreactive news story that
could blow this up.
Yeah, could blow that up. I don't think it's an original idea in that people haven't talked about it before, but I know it hasn't been done. So that's an interesting project. I think I missed the names of the first one. The first one we talked about, I keep forgetting to mention the names because some people are listening to the audio. Mm-hmm. The first, the click and point adventure game that didn't sell me was Devil's Cove Adventure Game. The $100 RPG was Rising Sun Episode 1, a computer story game. Now we're up to Orzham Trails. $5,000. There is no gameplay.
And I hate the graphic for their logo for the title screen. I want to shoot it in the face.
But they're already up to, they've almost got their, in a few days, they've almost hit their goal of $5,000. And I'll tell you why. 1980s America, Oregon Trail, zombie apocalypse, go. That's the idea, and, you know, by God, that's good enough of an idea.
That's a good idea.
That
I just hate that retro, modern title screen. I want it to die in a fire.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like that's going to be their art style, through what they've shown.
I think it's just the text. The text is what makes me want to stab things. The rest of it's fine. It's retro. Oh, lovely indie retro. But the font, stab in the face.
Next one is Fields of Fresh Epic Game Campaign for Epic RPG. Again, theme of the week. Looking for $1,000. Covering dev costs. Covering license costs. Up to $500 already raised. So again, we're not expecting masterpiece work out of this. This is just a guy who needs a little bit to buy, you know, some licensing and stuff and build the game. And now this one may interest some because essentially he talks about there's no good farming games. Yeah. And the ones he remembers involved harvesting, sprites, and a moon. So he's pretty specific what he's talking about that's lacking from the current Farmville games.
It's actual farming.
And, you know, yeah, he wants to bring the farmer back and
Yay!
make that part of the game.
Looks like zombies. Please don't be zombies. Dear God, I'm tired of zombies.
I don't know that there are zombies or not, but...
It said beware the dark.
Yeah. Maybe
there's vampires. I'll be fine with vampires. Just no more zombies.
Alright, next game up is Nexus 2. Now, I'm not familiar with Nexus, the original. But apparently that was a game that came out that this studio wanted to make a sequel of. And they couldn't do that. And they had a little... They're doing a very high production value video. And they're attempting to do some humor, but it really comes off as whining. And they're attempting to, like, mock this conversation of, like, wait, there's this Kickstarter. Really? What is Kickstarter? And, it's horribly played. It's well shot. Mm-hmm. Well, it's well shot. Props to that. It's horribly acted. They talk about, and there seems to be some bitterness of how they pitched a post-apocalyptic RPG in 2006 and got told by a publisher that post-apocalyptic RPGs don't sell. And then Fallout came out, and then they did a match 3 puzzle game or something. And then the publisher said, like, hey, can you make it in a post-apocalyptic setting? Because that sells. So I don't their original game, they have some gameplay down here. Looks to be massive space strategy. I'm not sure if you're controlling the ships or it's more of a tactical game. So nobody in chat appears to have played this one and offering and bailing me out. Trying to get to some interesting video, and that is getting hard to find. Come on, get to some interesting video, guys. More beauty shots. Look at our wonderful graphics. Yeah, so they just show a whole bunch of 3D ships running around. It looked a lot in action. Oh wait, maybe that was going to start something. It looked a lot and reminded me of Home Space, I think was the name of the game. Not Homefront. There's a much older game, Home something, that was an RTS in space. It looked a lot like that and sort of reminded me of that. They're looking for $650,000 though. So they're looking for publisher level money on Kickstarter, and I don't know that their studio name in their prior game is going to have the cash to, and by that I mean cachet cash, not financial cash, to make that happen. We'll see. I gotta refresh every one of these pages because Shockwave crashed.
Yes.
This one looks interesting.
Resix?
Yeah, it's a real-time strategy game. I'm gonna skip the little intro stuff. Come on. At some point they get to the gameplay here. Get to the gameplay. So, Resix, will they find the energy they need? Is a little RTS, but you kind of get like this little like Wall-E looking junk bot. I'm trying to find some of the video of them actually playing the game. There we go. Yeah, so you get this little Wall-E looking junk bot that goes out and collects like the different scrap and things like that to convert it to energy. And it looks like it's not on any kind of grid. It's just played on open 3D terrain. So that could be good or bad. If you do that well, it's great. But if you do that poorly, you get all these units stuck in odd places. I remember playing this game that had amazing artificial intelligence in it. It was called Enemy Nation, and or Enemy Nations. Windward Studios, if you want to go look that up, or Westward Studios, I think. Windward or Westward. One of them made Command and Conquer, and this is the one that didn't do that. But they're a wonderful engine. Like, they didn't use tiles, and like it broke down because like all the units just got like stuck pathfinding. So this looks interesting, and they're looking for $42,000, which for this kind of game feels about right as to what they should be asking for and what they need to pull off that game. Next one up is Orbiter, which I guess won some awards. It has some backing support, I think I read on this one.
Pretty.
It was developed as 2 years ago as an exercise in simplified game design philosophy, and I think it entered and did well in a competition or something as well. I don't know, I'm not finding it exactly. So, I think, let me go down here. Somebody put up a gameplay one because people were like, hey, you know, that's great. Where's the gameplay? So really what you have is you got this little guy, you're the spiral thing, this little guy, and you shoot off whatever you're orbiting onto something else and orbit it. And then when you orbit it for a little bit, you capture it. And then so you're just kind of shooting around and collecting things. So it looks like a good, interesting mechanic game. And like I said, it was done as a exercise in game simplicity. My issue with this Kickstarter, though, is that they describe it as a fast-paced action-adventure game. And nowhere in any of the Kickstarter or the video or anything, or the text did I find, where's the adventure part? Like, just
I can get
exploring.
fast paced.
Yeah, I get the fast pace and all that, but I wasn't finding where the adventure was.
Maybe you can shoot yourself off into space and find random planets.
Last one that I have up is the Impulse. Now, this is a hardware thing, and I just thought it was kind of cool, so I linked to it. So essentially, this is a Bluetooth
I think I heard about this.
game controller. So essentially, it fits on a keychain, and it's a little bitty D-pad and 4 buttons. It works over Bluetooth, connects to your iOS and maybe Android device. I don't know. I can't confirm that. And then, you play your games, and they say, there's already hundreds of games out there. I guess there's some standard Bluetoothing protocol or something for joysticks that they're tapping into, so they can claim that. Also will work as like a remote media player or something, so if you use like the iPod dock or the iPad dock to your television, then you want to go on the couch and play a movie from it or something, it can be used as a media control remote. But the cool kind of thing is, like, they've actually made it so it fits on your keychain, fits in your pocket, so you're likely to have it with you when you want to do that, which is kind of some of the problems with some of the other joystick controllers. Is like, they really don't...
Where is it? I don't know.
It's not something you could just take with you. They just crossed their goal. Their goal was about $50,000, and they're at the $54,000, so congrats to those guys.
Nice.
And it looks interesting. It does look like an interesting project. So I think that's going to wrap it up for the show. Michael, like I said, did email me. He's going to look into the ETIN issue, and maybe he'll have a blog post on that. If he does, I will post an update. If he doesn't, you still need to go read a lot of what this guy has written. It's really insightful, and at least makes you feel knowledgeable. So if you are talking or looking for an accountant, you know what to ask of them, and hopefully they become knowledgeable, or they are knowledgeable about that, and I've offered that information to you. I love the idea that no Kickstarter should owe taxes until they ship. That's the way it should be. So until next week, everyone, thank you for everyone who tuned in to the live stream. Thank you everyone who watches us on YouTube, and for the hardcore audience who still listen to us on the audio podcast. We love you, and we will be back in a week.